Nilimapate Vijayi Bhava, Nilimapate Vijayi Bhava, Nilimapate Vijayi Bhava. This is written in Sanskrit.
Wow.
Okay.
Fantastic.
Nilimapate is, you're the husband of Nilima.
Yeah.
Vijayi Bhava. So Vijay name comes. Vijayi Bhava. May you be successful in everything, every endeavor you think of, do, and so on and so forth. Shambhavi Pita, Shambhavi's father. Shravanasya cha, also Shravana's father. Right? So that's the song.
You as the captain used to say, Bhatu, jane na paye.
Jane na paye was to you and to the people who we brought into the team, who chaps had not played cricket.
Yeah.
As much as me and not even as much as you. उनके लिए word होता था, यार चिंता मत कर, लगे रहो.
Yes.
लगे रहो. Lage raho was one, and Jane na paye was to those who could actually win a match. Lage raho was to say, I will try and win the match. Don't leave me at the other end. You just be there with me. When you said our styles were a little different.
Yeah.
Our styles were a little different at work also.
Yes.
You were meticulous about the process.
Yeah.
I was ridiculous about the process. and yet, we worked like magic.
But in almost every sport, and I think in almost every sphere of life, you can only do your best and you can hope for a favorable outcome.
Yes.
But you can never be sure about what the outcome is.
I was going to say pretty much the same thing, which is that sports teaches you how to lose. My greatest accomplishment was to take Kamlesh Mehta to 3 games.
You did?
Yes.
That's truly, I took him to 3 points.
You know, my father used to always tell me that whenever he blessed a child in Odia, he used to say things like, Budhata Heitha. Budhata Heitha means be an old man. An old man signifies wise man.
Yeah.
So for as long as I can remember, Vijay was always Budhata Heitha. Even at a very young age, I must have met you when you were in your late 20s first.
Yes.
And what has always amazed me about you was always the fact that you were so sorted and so mature for your age, far beyond your.
There's always been something about Vijay Bhatt that's a bit like the Duracell bunny ad, you know? When everyone else reaches their 100%, you still seem to have another 20% in your battery, right? And you have that depth and that endurance and that grit and that resilience to say, I can do this. That's not too far, you know. And there have been so many moments in our marriage where I have run out of steam and I have reached my 100. And I'm like, done. And you're like, no, I can go. I can still go. I have, have a lot more where this is coming from. And I think that is what perhaps saved your life, Vijay. And perhaps what saved our marriage.
As a kid, it's not one distinct memory. It's a series of memories that all kind of match up, which is we would go on holidays a lot. And dad being dad, routine is his strength. So on her holiday, you would wear the same shirt. And I know that you remember the shirt. It's the elephant shirt. It's a green shirt. It's a ghastly shirt, by the way. But anyway, it's a green shirt.
It's blue.
Okay. Sorry. With the face of an elephant on the front, and the back is like the ass of the elephant. Okay. So this is also a very dad shirt. And this was your holiday travel airport logistics shirt.
Probably the routine and the meticulous planning from beginning to very end, because the end would finish in a holiday report that we were forced to do. So it was all fully thought through. and we just had to go along with it.
Bell bottoms. I remember bell
Bell-bottoms.
bottoms and sunglasses.
Oh, yes.
And very, very flashy shirts with the unbuttoned.
Yes, and the long hair as well.
Yes. Of course, Amama, I remember with great fondness and love. Ajaba, Ajja, we didn't call him Ajaba, we called him Ajja,
Yes.
was a more distant figure for me, but I know that you were the apple of his eye. Thottya is what he would call you all the time.
But you gave this to me and you said this made you think of me because I was always kind of trying to get out of the box, trying to push harder. And that has sat always over the last 25 years.
Wow.
That's always sat on my bookshelf. And I've always looked at it and thought, okay, yeah, that's Vijay reminding me to push harder and, like, you know, go back and rewrite it and do it better.
If it wasn't for you and me having that little drink in that bar, that Hutch and O&M would have never got together.
Yes.
And it was the start of one of the most fabulous advertising relationships ever in India. I think it's iconic in Indian parlance.
Absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely.
And what followed was just extraordinary advertising and brilliant branding that happened.
The first time when you came and visit us in Taipei, you came to the office, you sat down, you open your computer, and then you went to the men's room before the meeting starts. So then there's this screensaver start to roll on your screen, and it says, we before I.
Yes.
I don't know if you remember your screen, but that became that's made such a big impact to me, because this is actually the line when I started my own digital consultancy. This is the first value that I put on the wall. It is always we before I.
My dad was a good old army man, told me in the army, there are no good or bad soldiers. There are only good or bad generals.
Now, what you did was that you started treating me like a trusted advisor from the very early days. So my question to you is, what made you do that?
Sometimes when you go to consultants, begging the pardon of all consultants who are hearing this, but there is a tendency for, you know, the standard consultant thing to suck all the information out of you and then repackage it in a way which yes, it makes a sense, it's a structure, it's a thing of how to take it forward. But I thought you were able to very quickly grasp beyond the brief and actually able to add a whole lot more texture, insight, as well as completely, like you said, right brain thinking into the entire issues.
We were raised by a village at Talmakiwadi.
Yes.
And I'm delighted that Parvati Pachi, whose house we grew up in, is now 98 years old and still one of our favorite people and very much a part of our lives to date.
And that concept that, you know, in those days, there were parents and there were foster parents, and there was almost no difference between the two. What's ringing in my ears and continues to ring in my ears is the Kanyas chanting the Samved. What continues to ring in my ears is Devi Tai leading the Yajnas, right? And so therefore that kind of spiritual orientation, without really it being forced or imposed upon us, just being in the environment, had a very deep impact. Music is my gateway to the divine.
Kya baat? Wonderful. I remember you as a very bright kid, as you know, your receptivity, your ability to grasp whatever I taught was amazingly quick. And retention power also was something unusual. Especially one particular, I still remember one particular tukda that I gave you, and you played it with a wonderful impact. And you might remember that even today. Tangda, dingda, didi dingda. When at one point of time, when I was already dreaming and hoping and kind of visualizing you, not only to take tabla as a career and grow into a fantastic tabla player that India badly needed at that time, that was the first and last time that I cried bitterly. When bitterly for days on end, because I couldn't believe that you were not going to continue with tabla at that time. But that incident taught me a lot also, that it taught me how to give my best to a student who is so deserving like you, and give my best without expecting a return, but at the same time, with all my heart in teaching, and yet to develop the strength to be detached from everything in life.
One memory I have of you is that while we were in the train, at that time we took the Sivagad, and the Sivagad was a two-tier train.
Yes.
So I remember we were on the lower tier where we had about 40 seats, 35, 40 seats. And while some of us were on the footboard and chatting, people like Josie and Vanya and Winston, things like that, you were caught in the midst of a group of these young college students, and you were sharing with them all your exploits backpacking through Europe. And you were sharing with them which is the best place to stay, which is the best place where you can get cheap food, which is the best place where you can, how to get around and things like that. And I couldn't help being struck by the rapt attention you got from these young girls. I'll even tell you, you all ask me this question, you brought out the best in me. Yes. Because I never came into a workshop without being prepared. And knowing that I had such bright students in the class, it forced me to work even harder so that I would be prepared for whatever you threw my way. So I have to thank you as well to you, and particularly you and Shubha, because you all really brought out the best in me.
Thank you.
We traveled quite a bit back and forth.
Yes.
In the general compartment, which is 10 times more crowded, I made a first-class friend traveling in a third class Bombay train compartment.
I also think that for me, when I reflect back on it, it's that common shared Bandra boy cultural mooring, which I think was also important.
I agree, yes.
But Bandra had a huge impact on me, and that combination of growing up in Bandra, in Stanislaus, and then I had my 1 year in Wilson and then went to Xavier's, I think kind of opened me up a lot to making friends of all kinds, which I did not have when I was growing up in Talmakiwadi.
I think Xavier's is a chemical substance that alters your mind.
Yeah.
And it's a different kind of substance, right?
Yes.
And you know that your mind is expanded or it's been altered.
You had this life-changing event in your life, but how you turned it around to your own advantage. Not only did you take the bull by the horn, you rode the bull.
One difference which is pretty clear is that I am damn good at Excel and you're rotten at Excel.
I know you said that you are not a yoga teacher, but Sheetal and I fight till this day to say, well, Neelima, maybe you're a yoga teacher, Sheetal, but for me, it has always been Vijay. He is my yoga teacher.
First of all, you're slightly more mature than all of us. And that's a fact. But I think it is the calmness that you demonstrate. You walk into a room, you're not loud, but your calmness, and you bring in this energy that sort of calm people down, and people look up to you.
I'm trying to speak about my work, and the gentleman is keeping on asking me, so what is it about your family, about your personal, about your, I mean, like me as a person. And I felt that, man, this guy is really, I mean, wants to really know me as a person and is trying to, help me grow from there. And that really stayed with me. And I think that was really the defining moment of our relationship, that this is not just any other relationship.
The two chunks of work that really stand out for me that we've done together is choreos, which as we speak, Vijay, is now into its 12th year and 11th edition. In fact, it's quite, it's just appropriate that the last day of submission for entries is today.
Okay, wow.
So it's outlived us both, as anything of legacy should.
It's not just that, there was a moment where the world did not have answers. So there was a vacuum of insight.
Yeah.
And whenever dad sees a vacuum of insight, this is a point where dad and kind of global dads step up, and they are there to provide their insight and their guidance.
विजय, आप ना मेरे गुरु हो, मैं आपको blessing नहीं दे सकती, मैं आपको दुआ दे सकती हूँ, ठीक है?
चलो दुआ समझ लो.
तो आप मतलब वो हमारा we are friends, but there is also a guru shishya thing between us that we need to hold. Okay, and no matter how much you elevate me, that is one thing I will never forget. Guru Deva Bhava, and you are in that category.
There is something I found at home, which I thought was just something that represents you, man. Shoaib Akhtar gave me this ball of his.
Oh, wow.
Okay, and this ball is, I'm going to pass it on to you.
Oh, wow.
When I think about you, there's no greater man than you to represent the bouncers of life. And you have, taken balls like this in life and knocked it out of the ground, man. And for me, this is that blessing, which is that continue doing what you do, because it's a huge inspiration.
The blessing would be to really continue to come from your heart. You have such a strong intellect and such a strong, you're a strong 5,
yes,
in the Enneagram, and more analytical in terms of that style. Because the blessing that kind of comes to mind is, may you live as long as you love, and love as long as you live, and just trust that the analytical part of us, the logical part of us, is just fine. It doesn't need our help, but to just stay in our heart. And I think that's really my blessing for you.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Hank. That means a lot to me.
I really wish and pray that universe organizes itself in such a way in coming years that, it can take maximum out of you and give it to the millions out there.
I always feel, Vijay, that in your case, there is still much more to emerge. I still think there is a Vijay 3.0. The 1.0 was the advertising man, 2.0 was the reinvented. There's going to be a 3.0 who's going to be a different fellow. And I really want to see that blossom, so on and so forth. And, you therefore, in a sense, be even more fulfilled.
You know that just by being alive, the two of you are my blessings. Makes life worth living. So I feel like, we talk about life lessons in these videos. I feel that you have been both my life and my lesson.
You really care. You care for everyone around you, society, the country, the world. India needs many, many more people like you, with that kind of vision, with that kind of intention, with that kind of a dream. And may you succeed in all that you undertake. You have made all of us so proud. God bless you.